Hello all and welcome to another devlog of my custom operating system. In the last episode of this devlog I found a few bugs whilst going through the operating system. These bugs were quite minimal, like colored text not working or contents of the console saved and crossed out. But because I'm lazy, I'll leave these bugs until they become a bigger issue for me in the future, and instead work on more features which will add more bugs. In a text editor you can't move left and right and only edit on the far right of the line. I find this very frustrating, so I set on a goal to fix this. Overall, this was quite an easy thing to implement because all I had to do was add an extra variable to say what letter you are on and insert letters based on that. And as you can see, you can edit where you want. Another thing I didn't show off in the last episode was the ability to add macros in a text file. So you can write your shellcode in a file and basically make a virus. So now I've added this, what do you think the most optimal thing to do next is? Is it A, to fully flesh out the shell and console to make it as good as possible? B, fix the B console renderer because it is bad? C, do graphics because I don't have anything for the backend and why not? Or D, finally add internet because let's make it explode? That's right, if you chose A, you are wrong. So, if you chose B, you are also wrong. So it's either going to be between making graphics or adding internet. It's time to add your bets now. And the victor is C. Make the graphics because I have not made the backend, and it makes a good content because people only like visual changes and not logical changes. To tackle this problem, I invited my operating system to a game of footy. Then I decided I wanted to play rugby, and then I tackled it. Then it gave me the link to the documentation for Cosmos, and I used my teleporter I made last night to walk there. Once I was there, I was met by a guy who called himself Jesus. But I called him Cheesus because he was cheese. He told me that to make graphics I have to make a VBE canvas. No clue what it stands for, but it makes a canvas I can draw on. So then I got into a flying taxi and flew in a boat on the way home. Then I made my canvas, and now my screen's black. The next step to do was to create a class which does all the graphics stuff. I made a function which starts the graphics mode, which sets all the variables up and everything, and then I took the code from the kernel and just basically copied it into there. So you know how your parents always say, don't reinvent the wheel? Right, well, I remade math from scratch and programmed the vector2, vector3 and point, which can be used to store numbers and locations on the screen. I also made a line, which I did not use. I made a renderer function, which gets called each frame and keeps a track of each object on the screen. I later remade it so it's rectangles instead of lines. I have a question for you now. What do all good operating systems have? That's right, a clock to keep track of time, and they also have windows. So I want to add windows. We can do this by making a window class, which an instance can be made of when you want a new window. The window is made up of a rectangle which is drawn to the screen. The window has a draw function which calls all of the elements inside of the window's draw function. So basically it just draws everything. Next question is for you. What do all good operating systems have? That's right, a clock to keep track of time, and a moon, and a mouse. So I googled Cosmos mouse and found some documentation. This time, Jesus did not tell me the meaning of life and instead told me how to add a laggy mouse. After 30 minutes of content, I finally added a mouse, which is very laggy. Next, I want to add a window to render instead of having a blank hand-bake each window into the renderer. An app should be able to call the draw function, and it's like, yo, Mr. Drawer, what's up? Draw me please. And it just works. I have this by adding a draw function, which can add a window to the renderer. And then we have the same as before, but it doesn't need to manually draw each window. Logically, next we want to add text. However, when I add text, everything breaks. I was probably making some terrible bug which I kept making many memory leaks, and corrupting the virtual CPU, meaning I had to reinstall the operating system and all the packs every time. I will scrap this for now and we'll go over it later. I also add cool windows, and I'm not even joking when I skip through 4 hours of footage just to get away from that making video text thing. I went from video 4 to video 11. In an operating system, buttons usually tell the operating system when you click something to do something. So I started working on a button. Now I am not joking, but some of this code looks really good, and I was talking about how nice it is for at least a week. The button works by having a few rectangles, a point, and a dimension variable. The point tells it where to draw, and the dimension tells it how big it needs to be. The rectangles are the actual shape of the button and can be resized at will. The button has its own draw function, which gets called when it has to draw. Button is a bit flat, but we can fix this with animations to make it look not flat. I can see if the mouse is in bounds of the button, then we set a variable to say mouse over button. Then it has a statement where it sees if the button is hovered, then it just draws it, and then if it's not hovered, then it draws it normally. And this will look like this. To manage more button states like hover, not click, click or info, click, I created a enum class to manage button states. After implementing the animations for the other states, this is what it looks like. I made it so when you click a button, you can add a button to a window. It has an offset and draws in the window. Apart from that, I haven't added much to this devlog, even though I have 15 hours of content, and I haven't talked about that. The last thing I added to this month was the ability to create an app and use it to draw and bundle everything together in one script. They have a tick function which is called once per tick by using a thing I called the app manager, which you guessed it, manages apps. This has been one of my first scripted videos, so if you enjoyed this video, please consider dropping a like and leaving a sub if you really liked it. It's just a way of telling me that you really like this stuff and I should continue making it. Until the next video, have fun drinking tea.